Hey guys, we have a special guest on the Tavern today. We have independent tag team sensations who are currently on an undefeated streak. Turbo Floyd, Truth Magnum, the Outrunners. What's going on, fellas? How's it going?
Ooh, we're feeling good, and as you mentioned it, undefeated is all get out, and right here, right now, on this podcast, Chad, Sneed, we're going to remain unbeaten, baby. That's right. We're telling truth.
Yeah.
You're in for a treat. This is actually the very first time the Outrunners as a team are doing a podcast, and it's a pleasure to be here at the Turnbuckle Tavern.
Oh, man, we are honored to be the first too, man. That's awesome.
Yeah, you guys, I mean, I think anyone who follows independent wrestling on social media, I don't see how they couldn't be drawn to you guys. Just the package you guys have created, just the vibe. It's like a party, and I want to be there.
I appreciate that, and I'm sure Turbo does too. The interesting thing about us is that we formed this team about a week before the pandemic shutdown happened. So we say, hey, let's do this thing. We have this great idea. A week later, it shuts down, and then for the next 9 months, we pretty much worked on what you see now, which is this I think a pretty awesome package, if I don't say so myself.
Whole ambiance, yeah. The COVID shutdown really put us in a headlock, but I tell you what, we top with sloughed out of it, and now the Outrunners are here, undefeated, and we're here with you guys.
So you guys have been doing, you're working IWA, Mid-South, OVW, doing a lot of work. Predominantly, it looks like you guys do a lot of work in Kentucky and Indiana, which is kind of close to us, so we might have to make it out to a show. What's that like? What's that territory like just for the independent scene?
Well, I can speak for myself. I spent a good amount of time at OVW learning the craft under people like Rip Rogers, Al Snow, Jim Cornette at one time, Joey Mercury, Nick Dinsmore, and then even back home in Seattle, I trained under Buddy Wayne. So bringing all that here in the Kentucky area is pretty good. We spent a lot of time there. We're just now within this last year expanding out, and it's been a good ride so far.
So far, so good. Yeah, just like Truth said, spent some time there at OVW as well. I was there for about 4 years at that time. Started my, wrestling track out in San Diego, California. So coming here to, the Midwest, where, back home, because this is where I'm from, it's kind of just like home to us. So as far as like the independent scene here, it's kind of what we're accustomed to, but we're looking to branch out. And I'd say this Midwest independent scene it's really kicking in. As you mentioned, OVW and IWA Mid-South, those are two reputable promotions that are really getting a lot of things done here right now. Yeah.
And sorry to interrupt, you will start seeing the Outrunners in places like Chicago, North Carolina, Georgia within the next few months. So the word's getting around.
It's exciting. Like I said, I mean, the packages, kind of the video packages and the vignettes, you can tell there's a real style behind them, and that you guys are putting a lot of effort into that. Like, how important is it, especially in today's current wrestling scene? How important is it to shoot those things and create your own buzz on social media? And what are the benefits to you guys?
It's the most important thing. Nobody's going to create that buzz for you. In fact, I would say most of our time is spent thinking of ideas, putting stuff together in the most creative way that we can. And you also see that in the ring when the Outrunners compete. We do things very, very differently than you'll see anywhere else, because we have a very, very different background, a very different training that we've experienced. There's a lot of the lost art of wrestling that I think the Outrunners bring to the table.
That's right. We kind of just that lost art and sort of that old school mentality is something we can really hone in with kind of and I guess a lot of people say kind of a new school twist to it just a little bit. But as far as like the social media stuff and putting our own stuff out there, it really puts the ball in our court. So we're able to put out and do whatever we really want to. And there's no really anything we say goes. And as the undefeated Outrunners say, truth hit them.
The truth hurts.
Truth hurts, and you can't outrun the Outrunners. So when the Outrunners put a post out there and it gets 100,000 views, that's just what we do.
That's just the way it goes.
A lot of promotions, they see someone who can create that own buzz on their own. That got to be appealing to some of the major promotions.
Another thing we promote specifically for anybody that books us, and we work very closely with any promoter that reaches out to us, which is also just a fun part of the game.
Something that we do our best to put out like a unique, like say promo or vignette or something for that specific show that we've got coming up. And I feel that doesn't get done a whole lot, and the Outrunners are out here doing it and doing it well.
So I wanted to kind of circle back to what you said, Truth, that you had learned under Rip Rogers, Jim Cornette, Al Snow, those type of guys. I mean, those are legends. Rip Rogers has had his hand in so many people. Obviously, Cornette, we know the genius that he is, and Al Snow at OVW. But can you talk a little bit about, maybe some of the things you took from those guys coming up? And Turbo, also, same question for you as far as early training. Who were you learning from? What were you grabbing from these guys?
Early training out in California was strictly basics. So everything I learned out there at SoCal Pro from guys like Anthony Idol and Mike Camden and Jeff Dino and Tommy Wilson, I was able to use that. And then for my time at OVW, when I was trained by Matt Capitelli and Rip Rogers, the late, great Matt Capitelli, unfortunately passed away a few years ago. But Rip is still with us, and he's still alive, and he's still strong. But I was able to learn a whole lot from Rip Rogers. So basically everything you see inside the ring from me, it's more or less what would Rip do is kind of what's going through my mind as I'm doing these. And if you watch my tape and then watch old school Rip Rogers tapes, you'll see some very similar characteristics in there. And why not? Because he is the absolute world's greatest trainer. He's done it all as far as getting guys to the big show, main event superstars, making guys millions and millions of dollars. That's all thanks to Rip Rogers for the majority of the wrestling training, that is.
And that's, to speak to that more, that's all taking that kind of old school mentality and adjusting it to what's going on today. And because Turbo and I feel like we've been able to learn from some of the masters, the lost art of wrestling. Again, what you see with the Outrunners is totally, it stands out because there's not a lot of people that can do it, in my opinion.
Yeah, you guys look like you were plucked from like 1988. I love it. The throwback vibe is so strong, and that's instantly like the colors, the
sunglasses,
the gear. I mean, it's a total package. It's so appealing. Now, talking about your training and everything, what was it like before that? I'm guessing you guys were fans growing up. What was that early fandom like, and who were your guys growing up?
I think by taking a look at us and our maybe our tape, our matches, our vignettes, I think it's pretty obvious who we watched and who we looked up to. For me, Randy Savage is the greatest wrestler of all time. A very, very close second is Hulk Hogan. And then you get into like earlier guys like Stone Cold and The Rock. Obviously, those are the fan favorites. But then there's guys like Roddy Piper, who's probably third for me with my all-time favorites, as well as Kurt Hennig. And I think Truth and we share that I guess as far as who we grew up watching and kind of our style, we share all those kind of same guys in mind there. I'm sure he's got a few more that I missed, but it's pretty well hit there.
Yeah, if you look at me in the ring, I hope you see a little bit of Mr. Perfect, a little bit of Shawn Michaels, and a little bit of Bret Hart. Those are the people that I really looked up to growing up.
Yeah, Mr. Perfect was definitely the top of who I put in mind.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's a huge compliment.
What was it about those days that you guys think, like, what was it that drew people in that maybe is lacking a little bit that you guys want to bring back to pro wrestling?
I was just having this conversation with somebody, and I think what the Outrunners are good at and what we bring that's sometimes missed, the ability. I think fans want to be able to suspend their disbelief. And I think for a moment anyway, when the Outrunners are wrestling, you're able to do that and you're able to get into it and get emotionally invested in some way. That's our goal when we're out there.
We got a comment to us maybe last week or the week before about how our interaction with the crowd. You guys, I mean, they said you guys didn't ignore the crowd for 1 second. You had them invested and you were involved in them, and any sort of reaction they were getting, we were giving feedback to them as well as them firing it right back at us. And that was just some small independent show we did somewhere maybe 2 or 3 weeks ago that was able to say that, and they weren't the only ones to have said that. So I feel that old school sort of mentality, I guess, is kind of what we're trying to hope to bring back just a little bit. If it is on the independent scene for just a short second, we want to kind of be front runners for that, because honestly, you don't really see a whole lot of it, and it's not that like today's style of wrestling or independent wrestling or high flyer or whatever is necessarily bad or wrong. I love it all. We try to do it all, and we can get it all in if we can. But bringing it back to that old school mentality of it all making sense is the biggest thing that got those crowds invested back in the days. And that's what we're trying to do here now. And wherever it's at, if it's IWA or OVW or Chicagoland Pro Wrestling, wherever it's at, we're wanting to bring that same mentality and that same vibe to the crowd in the ring, the atmosphere, just all over, and make it happen.
Yeah, I think that's one thing for me is the fan interaction. Having that interaction, I mean, going to a show, I love going to a show, but man, if the wrestler, if they can pull me in and make me a part of the show and make me feel like I'm a part of the show, you've won me over immediately.
Yeah.
Hell yeah, people just want to believe.
That's right.
Yeah. So how did you guys go from, you're watching Macho Man Hogan, that golden era of WWF? What was it that kind of made you make that decision? Like, you know what, being a fan is cool, but I want to actually do this.
From the 5 or 6 years old of watching wrestling in the mid 90s, I immediately wanted to be in it. So I went to the nearest one in my hometown and just joined a wrestling club. So I show up thinking I'm going to hit some guy with a chair, and we're learning how to take down guys. So I got involved in the amateur wrestling world at a very young age, all based on wanting to be a professional wrestler. So now I spent almost 20 years doing that, and now we're running on year 10 of professional wrestling, and we're really, I feel, just catching our groove as far as Truth and I go as the Outrunners. Before, I felt like I was always spinning my wheels. Truth has always been more kind of a character guy, and when you kind of collabed here and met together, and now we're kind of just really having the time of our lives being the Outrunners. It's really great.
For me, I started training. I'm a little bit older than Turbo. I started training when I was 14 in Seattle. So we're starting to catch some buzz here, but that's like a 20-year overnight success in a way.
Right.
There's a lot of preparation and a lot of time and passion that's gone into the package that we're trying to put out there.
You hear that a lot about guys, they're 15, 18, 20 years deep before they get that break.
Yeah.
When you guys are out there, grinding, was there ever moments on the come up of where is this going? You always hear people questioning things, but I think the people that stick it out, those are the ones that really break through and make it.
Absolutely. There's plenty of times where you're questioning, why am I putting so much time and heart into this? But if it's a part of your blood, if it's a part of who you are, I wouldn't stop doing it no matter what, because it's just what I love and who I am.
That's right. We kind of I felt it a few months ago after a year of putting into this, that I think after one of our matches in the buzz and just how it felt afterwards, I remember saying the truth that I really feel like something's about to pop off for us, and now we're in a situation where we're working 3-4 times a week, and the everything's getting bigger and bigger for us, and I truly feel it's only a matter of time before something really, really pops off.
Hell yeah.
That's awesome. And so you touched on it a little bit, Turbo, but you guys trained separately, but how did you guys meet and how did you guys form as the Outrunners?
So I had taken some time off to finish my schooling, about 2 years actually, and I was asked to come back to OVW to wrestle one time. One of my matches was with Turbo as Randall Floyd, and we just fucking killed it. And I said to him, man, that was the best match I've had in, I don't know, 5 years. And that's made me want to say, hey, I still got some juice in the tank. This was fun as hell, and I'm going to keep doing it. And then after a while, we both ended up leaving OVW, and Turbo and I both have similar senses of humor, similar senses of style. I said, hey, man, this could work. You want to do something? And that was a year ago, and here we are.
Yeah. We just started shooting stuff and taking pictures and like promo shots and just all these different ideas that we had. 90% of them we ended up throwing away that we did not like at all. We spent a whole day taking pictures and videos of stuff that we've never used and probably will never use because it was just not us. And now where we're at now, it's more or less me when I'm inside the ring. I'm truly just being myself, and you hear that I'm sure all the time from wrestlers. It takes so long for you to finally figure out how to be yourself. And as Shiloh said, or Truth Magnum said, right before that, when it was Randall Floyd versus Shiloh Jones, that's what I meant to say. And I felt like I was just kind of spinning my wheels. I was trying to play something that wasn't truly me. And sure, I was doing like this amateur background thing with this Randall Floyd character. But for me, it just stopped being fun very quickly. And I kind of felt like I felt myself more or less just kind of going through the motions. And then I'd have, spurts of this is awesome, this sucks, this is great, this sucks, I don't like it, it's okay, it's great, I hate it. And then we got to a situation to where Truth Magnum and I ended up leaving OVW, but we traveled a lot together. We wrestled each other as our former selves for probably a year straight at different promotions all over. It was just like we were kind of married together. And then one day he just sent me a text and said, hey, you want to try this? And we just went out and started shooting stuff. And what we got now is kind of the end result of really about a year and a half of work as far as building character before we even really stepped foot inside the ring.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's something that I'm really fascinated by, is how the nugget of inspiration to the characters you create comes from. You guys talk about shooting all those promo photos, and there's a bunch that you shot that the world will never see. But how
they might, but how soon?
How did you guys find that groove with the Outrunners? Because like I said, not to beat a dead horse, but you guys really, everything fits. The name, the look, the videos you guys shoot. How did you find that aesthetic in your characters? What were those inspirations?
So like I said, me and Turbo kind of have like similar senses of style as it is. And I'm into like art, and there's a visual style called vaporwave or outrun type of visuals. It's actually that I used to follow on Instagram quite a bit, just because I like the way it looks. And I thought, how can we apply this to a wrestling character? And then, like Turbo said, there's a lot of throwing certain parts of it against the wall and seeing what sticks. And we're at the point now where like he'll make something, he'll send it to me, like, it's pretty cool, huh? And hell yeah. We don't think about it much anymore. It's just we've kind of chiseled away at that block to make the package we have now.
Yep.
Yeah. It's like a lot of 1980s Miami Vice synth wave,
acid trip type of
right
thing.
Well, I feel like the graphics that we have at the beginning really fit this interview.
Yeah, they do. I thought you made them just for us.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. And it's funny too, because looking at you guys, and you're kind of that total package. I don't want to sign the contracts for you guys. You guys are going to have to sign the contracts. But I think of like some of the promotions like NWA, Impact, AEW has a very burgeoning tag team division. They're incredible. I feel like you guys are tailor made for a number of promotions. WWE even.
Us too.
Yeah. Do you guys watch any of the current product? Like,
is there anything that you guys keep up with?
Absolutely. AEW. We have friends there. Same with NWA. All the Outrunners need is a shot, and we'll take it from
That's
there.
right.
We need that break, and we feel it coming. So.
Yeah, I feel like the Outrunners are due to have a run on NWA Power and hold those titles. You know,
let them know, people.
And that would be ideal, but hey, worst case scenario, guys make a lot of money on the independent scene. Some of the top paid wrestlers on the independent scene, and Truth and I were kind of feeling ourselves getting to that groove to where money's getting a little bigger, bookings are getting a little bigger and more frequently. So really, whatever works for whoever wants to work with us works for us. We just want to wrestle, we want to entertain, we want to have a lot of fun together.
Well, I feel like West Virginia needs the Outrunners, man.
Yeah.
Ooh,
Is
yeah.
that where you guys are at?
Yeah,
West
Charleston, West
All right,
Virginia.
well, let them know.
Yeah, we will. We have a promotion here, Pro Wrestling Conquest. They work a lot with IWC out of Pittsburgh. They bring a lot of Impact guys in. You guys would fit like a glove, man.
Oh, you guys are Taylor.
I'll be by myself with Rip Rogers in Grafton, West Virginia. I don't know how close that is to you guys, but Rip Rogers and I are going to be there July 29th. I think it's a Thursday, so I'll be in singles action if you guys are around.
Sweet.
Definitely,
Yeah,
man. Definitely.
Speaking of wrestling promotions, Turbo, should we drop the bomb here on Turnbuckle Tavern?
Oh, do we want to drop a major bomb here on the Turnbuckle Tavern? Oh, okay. Yeah, maybe we could.
Yes.
I think we could.
Turbo and I are very much involved in a new promotion coming to Louisville called Dream Pro Wrestling.
Nice.
You're going to see some really big names involved there, and check it out. It's on all social medias. I believe it's at Dream Pro Wrestling and Dream_Pro Wrestling. And there's some big stuff coming there.
At Dream_Pro Wrestling.
Yeah, let me double check that because I don't remember off the top of my head.
Well, since we dropped the bomb, we'll give it a.
There you go.
Oh, I like that.
Yeah.
You get honorary Outrunner status today for that sweet drop. Yes, Dream_Pro Wrestling.
On Instagram, yep.
Yeah.
So big news coming from that. Very large superstars coming. At the top of that list are Truth, Magnum, and Turbo Floyd. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. Now, is there like one match that you guys have had? You know, you're undefeated. You've been tearing it up. As a team, is there one match or maybe one tag team that you guys have kind of learn something about yourself as a team, and you kind of hold that and think back on that match? It's like, man, we really found something there.
I think when, say, last July, we had a couple of matches here and there that we felt we learned a lot from, and that was not the Outrunners. We kind of, maybe the first 2 or 3, maybe 4 matches last summer. This doesn't feel like us. This feels a little bit forced. Let's relax a little bit. And as we've come here in the last few months, after each one of our matches, it's very far and few between that there's something that I don't necessarily like inside of it. But there's, I've been talking to Truth afterwards and saying, I think that might have been our best one yet. And it just seems to just keep happening match after match. We had a really fun one with the Youth Gone Wild in Chicagoland Pro Wrestling a couple weeks ago. Two guys that have been around for a while that were able to help us learn a little bit about the era and their style, and that really worked with us very well as far as letting us just be us the entire time, and getting the point across that, you know, we were these big bad guys at the situation, and the crowd ate it up. They hated us. They bid on every single thing we wanted them to, and that's a huge credit to Truth Magnum. They're just being super easy to work with as well.
Oh yeah, we're getting to the point where we don't have to talk, and we know what each other's thinking and going to do. So it's been quite often after our matches where we're like, man, that felt like the best one so far.
That one felt good.
Do you like what's more satisfying to you, getting heat or getting the pop of the crowd, the positive pop of the crowd?
I tell you what, faces sell merchandise, heels sell tickets, so we'll take that all day long. Getting that heat and getting booed into getting totally sucked and finding certain people that somehow know our actual names and scream those out, it's always really fun for something like that to happen. But for me, it's getting heat all day long. We want to sell tickets.
Oh, yeah, I live off of it.
That's right.
It seems like it's a lot more fun.
Oh, yeah.
It's
Whatever you want.
do whatever you want. Do whatever you want.
Walk us through, the indies are kind of gearing back up. They're getting into full swing after the pandemic. Everyone, it shut down for a year. It feels like we've finally seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. Walk us through a typical just day with you guys when you have a show, when you have a big show. Do you guys have any pre-match rituals? What music are you jamming in the car on the way to the show? What kind of food are you taking in? Like, how are you guys prepping for a match?
Well, there's a lot of Bang energy drinks because when we do drive, it's a long distance, and we get to the point usually on the way home where it's like we're slapping each other to stay awake.
Gotta pull over for a few minutes and do some sprints in some parking lots so we don't fall asleep. That's happened a couple times.
Rituals? I don't know if we have any rituals. We are usually pretty calm. We talk as little as possible, to be honest with you, other than throwing ideas at each other. But we like to just go out there and do as much walking and talking as absolutely possible. It's more authentic that way, or it feels that way anyway.
Feels more authentic, get more reaction out of it as far as who you're working with. A lot of the time it's just, hey, react how you would if this, and I'm going to punch you in the mouth, react how you would. It's that simple. So, I don't know, yeah, minimal talking is what we try to do. As far as like music on the car ride and stuff, I think we're pretty interested in the same style of music, which it seems to be pretty much everything. But we found a couple podcasts that we both really like that kept us awake the last drive we had when we were in tears laughing at a Comedy Bang Bang podcast. So we found a huge love for that. When he randomly played me a clip last year sometime, I go, oh, I didn't know you liked this show. And we just started listening to it everywhere we go now. There's just endless entertainment on there. So a lot of Comedy Bang Bang, any sort of comedy podcast we really like to listen to. There's a couple wrestling podcasts Shiloh Treat puts on. And we're able to have a good time and pass the time when we're making some pretty long drives.
Yeah.
I remember growing up, my dad always listened to talk radio, and I was like, man, how do you listen to that? And now all I listen to is podcast. Yeah. And that's what keeps me interested. So I totally understand that.
Now we're adding the Turnbuckle Tavern to our playlist.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
Get us in there.
Awesome.
Where can we find you guys?
Apple, Spotify,
YouTube.
Got it.
And we have some pretty sick merchandise on ProWrestlingTees.com.
Hell yeah. So the Outrunners, I saw it. There it goes across the bottom there. Yeah, go to Outrunners. Go to the ProWrestlingTees.com /Outrunners for these sick-ass tank tops just in time for your summer. God, it's a hot boy summer, so here we go.
Do you guys have been on the road, and maybe not as because you've both been in the business for a while before the Outrunners were created. You guys have a crazy road story or something that happened on the road, maybe not necessarily in a match, but like just in the
something that sticks
out for you guys.
I'm trying to think of something I can say.
Right. Most like wrestling stories are something usually pretty dirty happens. That's why it's so outrageous. And I'm trying to think of anything that's not that. I can't tell you how many accidental penises I've seen and stuff. So if I can think of something different, that's usually what happens. Something happened, and then, oh my God, his penis is out. And it's like, oh, a bunch of guys here, put it away.
Yeah, I'm having trouble thinking of something that's not incriminating to.
I get it.
Yeah, I hear that a lot.
Any fan that you've ever really pissed off to the point they got really mad, like for real?
Yeah, you get in good heat that.
Oh, before the Outrunners, I used to get some pretty good heat at OVW. I one time had a fan I hit a finish. The finish of the match was me hitting my finishing move to a guy, but on top of a chair. So one of the fans didn't take too kindly to it. So from the opposite side of the arena, walked all the way around to the entrance and hucked his own chair at me. That went straight across my face. And as I'm freaking out for a second, I look over and he's being drug out by security, like very aggressively. So I was about maybe that close to get my nose taken off and broken again. So that'd have been a real good story for me. But as far as anything really too crazy, I mean, I haven't had to hit a fan. No fans ever hit me. So.
Oh, well, a fan has hit me. I tend to get a lot of heat from children. And I think it was one of our first IWA shows. I challenged a little girl to slap me, and I didn't think she'd do it, but she hauled off and gave me one. So that's learned.
Yeah,
I did have a fan pour what I thought was going to be a beer in my face, and it was about a quadruple shot of whiskey that I took all in my nose and about threw up mid-match. So that was a good time a couple years ago at some house party that we did that Chris Jericho was headlining with Fozzy at. It's like a 3-match show, and I was the main event for it. It was really interesting time, but yeah.
Sounds like a hell of a time, but man, I feel like that would burn.
It was good. Oh, went straight up my nose. I could smell it for like 3 days, and I almost threw up everywhere.
Oh.
Now, we hear a lot about people. Every time you talk to wrestlers about their training or something like that, you hear about the bumps, the hitting the ropes, the early pains of those early training days. But what's it like learning the psychological aspect, the ring psychology and stuff like that? Do you find that was harder, or the physicality was harder? I've heard different responses to that. So
both of it was extremely difficult for me. I trained with Buddy Wayne for a year and a half before I left Seattle to Louisville. And his training consisted of just matches. He never explained psychology to me. It was all done by feel and repetition. And then I don't think people are trained like that anymore. So a lot of the stuff I do and the way I learn is kind of by instinct almost, to where it's just like react for real. Don't think about the moves you're going to do. React according to what's happening, which I think is also part of the lost art that we're trying to bring back.
Right. And as far as me, my training was very similar, and I was, for the most part, very heavily trained by Rip Rogers. So psychology, repetition, just like Truth had. His trainer was trained by Rip Rogers. So he got basically the same training as I did for the most part. But it was all just giant repetition. And a lot of, like Truth said, we were just having matches inside there. You'd say, hey, get in there and give me 15 minutes. Okay, what do you want me to do? And in true Rip Rogers fashion, I don't give a fuck what you do, just have a match. So, and then if it was too bad, he would stop, scream at you, and all right, you got 6 minutes left, and just start calmly say, you got 6 minutes left, and just get right back into it. So early days of me training with Rip Rogers, it was very difficult to learn the psychology aspect of it. The physical part, I kind of felt like it came naturally to me just because of my amateur background. And I wrestled since I was 6 years old. I wrestled through college to about 23. So started training wrestling at 24. Well, I trained a little in college, or in college as well, but they don't need to know that. And then so having that year out in San Diego and then coming to Louisville to train with Rip Rogers, it was a very different training as far as theirs was. Get the moves down, get the basics down. At the beginner level anyway, I wasn't learning any psychology there yet, but as soon as I got to Louisville with OVW and Rip Rogers, it was all that it was getting pumped into my head was wrestling and ring psychology. Why does this make sense? Why would you do this? All right, you got 20 minutes, go call it in the ring, or you got 60 minutes, go call it in the ring. And after enough of repetition of that, and him, Rip Rogers yelling and screaming at you, you eventually figure it out. You get to the point to where you say, well, the match is fine, but your punches look like shit. And it's, okay, so now I'm in the corner practice and I'm throwing 1,000 punches before the end of practice. That's just kind of how I was always brought up. And then if you suck at something, you're always going to suck at something at the start. just do it until you don't suck so much.
And now that you ask, I would say over the years, I've seen the psychology portion weed more people out than the physical portion, because the way Rip teaches and the way we were taught is very difficult and frustrating to learn. But once you get it, you get it. And his pedigree and the people he's trained speaks for itself. So.
It's true. Mm-hmm.
What do you think it is about that weeds people out? What is so difficult about it?
It takes time, and it is impossible to master. So you'll never, even now, we think our shit doesn't stink, but we got so much more we can improve upon, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now you talked Truth a little bit about, you said the lost art, you know, that of today, you know, people have kind of lost something. What do you think, what's one of the most important things that maybe modern wrestling needs to get back to as far as those old school traditions? And what's one thing from modern wrestling that you guys actually look at and you enjoy?
The thing that it lacks at times, not to say all the time, there's plenty of good workers out there, but more often than not, the biggest thing I see missing is an emotional connection to the story that you're trying to tell. And in opposition to that, it's a focus on moves. Sometimes you can watch people wrestle and you can look at their face and you can see they're just trying to think of the next move they're doing. We don't try to do that. We're honestly reacting as things are happening. We're pro wrestling. We're working.
I was always taught that you're going to forget things that you're doing in there, but while you're trying to think, always think in character. So if I get lost in a spot, I'm still, where am I? I'm not, oh no, I'm lost kind of thing. It's not necessarily something that always happens in independent wrestling. It's more of somebody that's more newer to the game that you'll see that in. But I always tell people it's just repetition. And as far as like today's style, like you said, I mean, there's nothing that's really wrong with it. We watch it. We still enjoy it. It's still a lot of fun to watch. The biggest thing we feel that we see that's missing from giant products like WWE and maybe AEW, NWA is the characters. You don't see too many characters anymore. I mean, Al Snow always said, describe Stone Cold Steve Austin for me, and he's a walking, talking, beer drinking son of a bitch, and then you know exactly who Stone Cold Steve Austin is. And he would always say, "But tell me who Seth Rollins is," and you're just kind of like, "Oh yeah, I get it." And that's kind of where it clicked for us. It's like we need a character. We need to do something that's fun and entertaining. I can't be this amateur background guy that's kind of dull and just does these elaborate ways to get into different holds that only gets people hooked for a little bit. I mean, you go back and watch like a Billy Robinson match, who's probably the greatest, one of the greatest shoot wrestlers of all time. He can put on this great and amazing match with pretty much anybody, but if you listen to the crowd, they're kind of sitting there with their hands sitting on their hands. But then you get to guys like Stone Cold Steve Austin, where it's one thing happens, all you want to see him do is punch a guy and hit a stunner, and as soon as he does, the place is going to erupt. You don't give a shit what kind of moves he does. I mean, I can't name any of his moves. He punches, he kicks, and he does a stunner. So that's kind of where we're at. I was telling Truth the other day is I don't think I really even do moves. I did a body slam, I think, a couple weeks ago, and I was like, that might have been it. Other than our finish, we don't really have specific moves that we do. Let's go out there, be ourselves, have fun, entertain the crowd. I think that's a big thing that's missing in professional wrestling and maybe some bigger promotions. But like on the independent scene, you got guys like Danhausen, who's getting over now, signed with ROH, who's like the greatest. He's doing the greatest character work right now, if you ask me. And it's not that he does like a ton of moves. I mean, I couldn't tell you any of his moves, but I could tell you exactly what his character is. So, and it's guys like him and Warhorse, and I mean, I don't know what moves they do, but I know their character. Those guys are awesome, and they for us, at least in the Midwest, I see a lot of them that kind of run in this territory a little bit. So those are guys to aspire to, I guess.
And what a guy to get that advice from, the Seth Rollins, Austin advice, a guy who got a mannequin head over.
Right.
I mean,
Exactly.
come on. I mean,
right. And he would tell stories of, I've got this character now, and then, but I need to make people believe. And he would tell us stories, and they'd go out to eat, and he'd buy 2 dinners, one for him and one for the head, and then argue with the head the entire time, which is like, okay, now this is starting to make a little bit of sense. I need to find a character. I need to find something that works. I went through maybe about 10 different changes in about a year at OVW, and nothing was working for me that I liked. And I remember talking with Al one night before I ended up leaving that I think I'm working on something. I think it's really going to work. I think I need to go up and just try this. And he was really cool and said, yeah, go and do what you need to do. We're happy to have you back whenever you're ready to come back. So this is what we kind of landed on. This is what we've been working on. So this is a whole plan. So maybe one day if that's in the cards, that's in the cards. We'll see.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
So what's next for the Outrunners?
Well, we have a pretty big summer lined up so far. I'm looking at my calendar right now. And then we have the Dream promotion. I can't tell you the date yet, but it's in September, and that's going to be pretty big, I think.
That's exciting.
Hopefully, be real exciting. That's another thing we've been working on for over a year. We had a date, I have everything lined up, and then COVID hit restrictions, and we can only have like 20 people in the building. It's like, well, we're not really here to lose a ton of money, so let's kind of work this out. And now here we are with an opportunity to put on a really good, really big and fun show. So Dream _ wrestling on Instagram. Hell yeah.
Pro wrestling.
Pro wrestling.
There it is. I love it.
Yeah, I like that.
So before we let you guys go, we always like to ask one question just to pick your brain, see where you're at. You're on the indie scene. You're making towns. You guys have a van. You can have any 3 wrestlers. Each of you get to pick your 3. You can have any 3 wrestlers, alive or dead, inside that car with you to make towns with. What 3 wrestlers are you putting in the van with you?
3 total or 3 apiece?
So there's
3
6
apiece.
Okay.
in the van, his 4, him and his 3 with me and my 3. Can we do it
Oh
that
boy,
way?
that's what he said. Yeah.
Okay.
Oh boy.
Turbo.
All right, first and foremost, I got to have Rip Rogers there. I got to have somebody to scream and yell at me and tell me how stupid I am the entire drive. And he always told stories about him and Randy Savage when they lived together. So seeing those 2 live and in person would be pretty incredible. And maybe learn if all the stories are true or not. There's no really second half of the story we can hear because Savage is gone. But I always hear Rip's version of it, and it's pretty incredible. So those 2. And then a third, you know what? I'm going to have Truth Magnum in that car with me.
Wow.
Oh, yeah.
That's right.
Well, I would have to go with. Oh, hold on. Let's try that again.
Oh, wrong side. There we go.
The virtual handshake.
That's a hard one to beat. But in the interest of keeping it interesting and not picking the same ones, I will say I would have to have Mr. Perfect. He's one of my all-time faves, and I just love to pick his brain, and he's good for the ribs.
Yeah.
I would also like Owen Hart for the same reasons.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, I have to have Turbo. It just
Yeah, tag team. There we go.
Yeah.
You nailed it.
Well, thank you guys for coming on the show. Give some plugs out. Let our
where can they
listeners
find
know
you?
where they can find you at.
At Truth Magnum on every social media there is. Check us out there. Turbo Floyd _ also on those same social media platforms.
Yep. Twitter, Instagram, Turbo Floyd _ you can find our prowrestlingtees.com /outrunners. Go buy you a nice tank top just in time for your hot boy summer. You can also find me on Twitch at twitch.tv /Turbo Floyd _ So all those media handles are the exact same.
All of our upcoming dates should be on our Instagram here now, if not in the very near future. We have All Pro Wrestling coming up, Chicagoland Wrestling, Pro Wrestling Mid-South, and many more. We get many more this summer that I don't have off the top of my head.
We hope to see you guys very, very soon. Big fans here. We can't wait to see where everything goes for the
We
Outrunners.
appreciate it.
We're honored that this was the first tag team interview that you guys have done.
The very first.
We love it.
Yeah. So we'll be watching. All the best to you guys. Thank you so much for coming on the show. Everybody go check out the Outrunners. They are going to explode.
Hell yeah.